Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Jonathan Nicholson, and today I'm joined with David Peterson. He's our senior engineer with ISP Supplies. And today we're going to go over the steps needed to apply for an OET experimental license or a 6 gig license. For the equipment in today's presentation, we're going to use Cambium Networks equipment, but any other type or any other vendor 6 gig equipment would work as well if you follow these application steps for your license. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to David to go over all the steps. David, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jonathan. Welcome, everybody. So I know, and I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people feel that this is a really scary process. I can assure you it's pretty straightforward, and so we're going to go through the steps. It will take you between 30 and 45 days, and we do have assistance as well. Jonathan's going to talk about that later. So basically, let's start out with the first step. Okay, so the first thing you need is an FRN. This is your FCC number. A lot of you probably already have one. If you have a license link that you've registered, you already have an FRN. If this is your first time, if you've stuck mainly in the unlicensed spectrum, then you'll need to go to the FCC and then register for your FRN. Basically, you want to start out with who you are and what kind of a business you are, and of course, whether or not your contact address is within the United States. One thing to keep in mind that as this is a U.S. government, if either your contact or your business is owned outside of the United States, there are some steps that we will not be covering, and I would recommend you get a lawyer, a FCC lawyer at that point, and we can help you with that. So just talk to one of our sales representatives. So pretty straightforward. If you haven't registered, it's just basic contact info, right? You're going to give it your name, address, that sort of thing, personal security questions. But if you already have one, you're just going to log in and then skip on to that, to the next steps. All right, so once you're logged in, the first thing you want to do is get a new license or modification of a license. This is Form 442, new license. And then once you click on that, it'll pop up and ask what type of license. And conventional experimental license is what you're looking for. So you basically click on Form 42 and then click on conventional experimental license from there. So, of course, this is a new authorization. Now, if something happens and let's say you fill one of these out, you can modify either an existing license or if you have a previous license that was denied, you can modify or reset your authorization data at this point. So basic, straightforward information here, mailing address and name of applicant. That would be you, whoever's filling that out at that point, although you can have people fill it out for you. All right, so what you want to know, of course, is which access point and clients you're going to deploy. If it's Cambium Networks, of course, that's the EPMP 4600, EPMP 4600L, or the EPMP Force line. Of course, if it's, say, Mimosa, that would be the A6 and C6X. And then how many units you're planning on deploying. And of course, this is experimental. And so you would add equipment at that point. So for the 4600, you, of course, pick the manufacturer that you're going to use, model number of units, click on experimental, yes, and then proceed. Now, from there, question 11 is identifies equipment such as radio stations, those sorts of things. So you want to click no on that. If you're an individual corporation, they say other. But if you say other, I'm not sure why they would put this in here that way. If you say other, you're going to have to explain what other means. So I would just pick whether or not you're an individual, association, partnership, or corporation. Question 13. Yes, this is the one I talked about earlier. If you are a government representative for a foreign government or the U.S. government, if you click yes, there's a lot more information to be filled out at that point. So, of course, click no there. On 14, whether or not you have had a permit revoked or denied. And if you have had permits revoked or denied, you will have to relate how and why that happened. And hopefully there won't be any problems, but most of you are probably just going to check no at that point. Question 15, are you the operator of the station? Yes, you have to fill this out as the operator. Of course, if somebody's filling this out for you, and as we said, we have people that can help, they will click that for you because they're doing it for you in your name. Then, of course, your last name, first name, title, phone number, email address, the usual, right? And of course, read through question 17, pretty straightforward. Click yes, sign, and then submit. Once you've submitted the exhibits, they're going to ask for additional information about the equipment that you're going to use. So you look through the information, make sure it's correct, and submit. Now, of course, if you're not sure what the 6 gigahertz band is and why you need a temporary special license, this tells you a little bit more about it. If you have any questions, contact our sales staff or myself in engineering, and we can help. But it's just basically, if you want to read through this, we'll leave it up here for a few seconds. That way you can read through it, or there will be a link to a PDF of this in case you want to peruse this at your leisure. So Exhibit B, of course, is the deployment parameters. That's the radio equipment. Of course, like anything that you're filing with the FCC, you have to have your location, GPS coordinates, the beam width of the antenna, any tilt of the antenna, the azimuth of the antenna, including horizontal plane, which is the height above ground, elevation of the ground at the antenna site, that's the AMSL, distance to the nearest aircraft landing. If you are close to a aircraft zone, you will of course have to fill that in there. And then any other natural formations nearby, you'll want to identify those. But pretty straightforward information at this point. Of course, the frequency is going to be 5925 to 7125 megahertz. That it will be locked to the Uni and Uni 7 bands. The station class, you always set that to FX. The maximum EIRP is set for 4 watts. This is for the Cambium equipment. If you look at the FCC certification of your equipment, it'll tell you what the maximum EIRP is, but more than likely it's about the same 4 watts. The mean peak set to P. These are things that the FCC OET has already determined. You're just sending them back from the information you get from the FCC to fill this out properly. And of course, frequency tolerance, which is also listed in the documentation on your system. Now, for the EPMP line, and probably others as well, for the 4625, that is 960 hertz. 4600C, 1152 hertz, 4600L, 1152, as well as the 4600. Now, the emission designator, if you go to the FCC OET website and search for the equipment that you're going to be using, you look at the certification for that equipment, and it will give you the emission designator. What you want to sign for is if you're going to use an 80 megahertz or 160 megahertz wide channel, you would pick the emission designator that corresponds with that. And there's a list of all the designators for each equipment. So then the first symbol is D, and that's the amplitude and angle modulation, which basically is OFDM. Second symbol is 7. Now, if you look at the other equipment's FCC's certification. It will have the exact same thing. It might be slightly different, but more than likely it's fairly similar to this. Second symbol is 7 for 2 or more channels. Third symbol is D for data transmission, because it's not telemetry or telecommand. And then, this is what I talked about earlier, whether or not you are wanting to register a 20, 40, 80, or 160 wide channel, then you would use the mission designator that matches what you're actually going to register for that equipment. If you change it legally, you should go in and change your certification, and it will resubmit that to the FCC, letting them know that you've changed the width of your channel. And then modulating signal, set it to OFDM, because all equipment, Cambium and otherwise, is OFDM in this case. Now it'll also ask you for number of users and the maximum radius that you're going to deploy. So pick a nice long radius, and then maximum EIRP of 4 watts, but make sure that you check the equipment certification on that. So that's it. The last slide, last 2 slides, is the worst of it, simply because it doesn't really give you an easy way to know what it is you're looking for and how to enter it into the application. But it's pretty straightforward. Once you get past this little bit of a stage, then you should be pretty good to go. But Jonathan's going to talk about our specials, and which includes some assistance getting yourself registered. Jonathan, all yours.
Thank you, David. Thanks for going over all the steps there. So also, we can also help you by taking care of the coordination and FCC filing of your 6 gig license application as a standalone service. And we also have a few ISP Supplies exclusive bundles that we put together, which include the Cambium Networks ePMP 4600 APs and SMs, as well as the 6 gig license application service as part of the bundle price. For more details on those bundles as well as the service, please give us a call at 855-947-7776, which is 855-WISP-PRO, or you can shoot us an email at sales@ispsupplies.com, and we'll go over all the info and be able to help get you started. Thank you very much, David, for going over the steps. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today, and until next time.